Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise. What am I made of? Why do I get sick? How can I live a more balanced and whole life? These are just a few of the questions that will be explored tonight by your host, naturopath, medical intuitive, and clairvoyant, Dr. Rita Louise. Call in and talk to Dr. Rita and her thought-provoking guests. Get the help you need to move beyond any obstacle or challenges affecting your life right from the source. And now back to Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise.
Hi, and welcome back to the second hour of Just Energy Radio. If you'd like to call in and talk to our guests, the number is 888-863-2722. So, our guest is David Sereda, and I first became aware of his work actually this summer at the 2007 Roswell Festival, which was the 60th anniversary of the Roswell crash. And I was sharing a booth and helping my good friend, probably a mutual friend, Jerry Pippin, as we all know, jerrypippin.com. And he had his video there, and it looked really interesting, and got a copy, and it was. So let me tell you a little bit about David, and we're going to talk about his new video, From Here to Andromeda. So David Sereda is a space scientist, theoretical physicist, spiritual explorer, ecologist, author, and filmmaker. He has studied world religions and practiced meditation on a daily basis for over 30 years. Upon Jesus Christ appearing to him 3 times in a blaze of spiritual light, 1,000 times brighter than our sun, from 1994 to 1999, David accepted his baptism as a child into Catholic mysticism. Jesus taught David singularity, the subject of his new book, and also the deepest understanding in his new 4-hour film, From Here to Andromeda. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio, David Sereda.
Thanks for having me on your show. Rita, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks so much for coming on. Your movie, it was great. I was kind of riveted to the TV set for 4 hours.
It's 4 hours long.
Actually, I did do it in 2 parts, but
yeah, it's designed that way to see it. You know, it's designed in 4 episodes, so you can watch 1 hour at a time.
But it was really good. And you know, I'm going to be a little self-disclosing. I'm not a big UFO person. I mean, I believe in UFOs, but I don't follow the literature per se. And when I went to the festival, I had Roger Lear on the show, I had Dean Hazelin on the show, I was talking to Jordan Maxwell, Rob Simone. I mean, I was just hanging out with him, you know, all kinds of people, and I didn't realize I was in such good company.
Oh yeah, you were. Of course, they're all in From Here to Andromeda as well, all those people.
I know. That's how I realized that, oh, my God, these are, important people, and I'm running around with a tinfoil hat on. So they all remember me, the woman in the tinfoil hat. So, you know, one of the things that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier was the exciting news that Al Gore won the Nobel Peace Prize today.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the biggest news on the planet today, I think, but it's so polarized. When you go to CNN, it looks like first CNN ran a poll that, you know, how many people believe that Gore, you know, deserves the prize, and he was winning by, I think, 58% out of 100% in his favor. But then all of a sudden the poll just disappeared, and it seemed like CNN was publishing more of the viewer comments that he shouldn't have won than the ones saying that he should have won. And I felt that CNN was being very biased. And I think there's a great fear about him running for president, so much so that there's a lot of, advisors are saying that that Al Gore shouldn't run for the presidency. And you just wonder, is this propaganda? Are you telling us he shouldn't run, or should he tell us he should run or not run? And maybe, you know, the people that are saying that he should run are the ones who are afraid. And obviously we know that means the oil companies and all of the corporations they own all over the country. And what that means to them is fear. about losing business. In fact, even Mother Jones magazine ran a story a couple years ago, I talked about this on many radio shows, that proved that a lot of the scientific studies done to counter global warming theory were paid for by ExxonMobil. In fact, those foundations were actually named and cited in the Mother Jones article. In fact, most of the studies that were against it were paid for by ExxonMobil. So it looks like the culprit arises, in the black, veil is once again the oil companies. So the problem now is there's a lot of fear because he's becoming more and more powerful. He wins the Nobel Prize, he wins, the Golden Globe, he wins the
Academy Award.
The Academy Award, and it just keeps growing. And he's being very selfless, giving the prize to the foundation, the Global Alliance Foundation for global warming, and it's like he's really on a very powerful mission. And even though I think he fails in the area of finding solutions for global warming, and DiCaprio's new film, The 11th Hour, and my film, From Here to Andromeda, go much further in that department. I think I go further than anybody, and that's when we realize that our defense contractors obviously have the greatest technology and the most classified and the most advanced energy technologies, and it's always been that way. In fact, hydrogen fuel cells come from NASA. They were using them successfully, astronaut Gordon Cooper says, back in the Apollo missions and the Mercury missions. So it's not like hydrogen fuel cell technology is new. It's been used and proven by NASA. So we can't imagine what is sitting in these defense labs, and that's where, From Here to Andromeda, we probe into Lockheed Martin, our number one defense contractor, who monopolizes most of the money in the Black Ops area. They built the F-117, the B-2 bomber, and a lot of the most advanced aircrafts in our military arsenal are built there. So we get an interview with a 20-year veteran, 20 years assigned, who's been working for them in classified projects for 20 years. He worked for Howard Hughes, Texas Instruments, the Shah of Iran. He designed the Stinger missile, and his name is Boyd Bushman. And he tells us that there literally is technology, and he demonstrates what that technology is, that a lot of people are mistaking for some of the UFOs. And then he tells us that this technology essentially could save the planet, and here's why. And I think that is going further as a journalist or an investigative reporter than anybody's ever gone. I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, solar technology is even more advanced than the oil companies will allow, and even battery technology for storing solar energy is far better than we can even imagine, and that was proven in Who Killed the Electric Car, when we see the scientist whose battery patents technology gets bought up by Texaco, and all these oil companies shelve it.
And it disappears.
And it disappears. So if that's what we know, if that's as much as Al Gore can tell us or DiCaprio, that, yeah, we can use solar energy and drive electric cars, and we can live more sustainably than we are, but what if there's technology that can supply infinite amounts of energy that's non-polluting, zero-point energy, and anti-gravity technology? Then you get into an area that's far more dangerous, and that's what we've done in From Here to Andromeda.
Well, and I found it very interesting that, your conversations with Boyd, he would tell you little snippets of things. I mean, he actually, I felt, disclosed a lot more than I would have ever dreamed anybody would have disclosed. But then you would ask him certain questions, and he would be like, well, can't really talk about that. Because you're definitely moving into an area that was, a hot spot or a classified spot. But it's like, well, wait a minute, this is getting really juicy. And you could see by the look in his eyes that there was something there. It wasn't like, no, we don't have anything. It's like, well, yeah, it's really juicy, but sorry, classified.
Well, and also when he says that this technology comes from a non-white world form, meaning alien. You can only determine in the negative space what he's pointing to, and you can see that defensiveness comes up in him, and it just proves to you that they know far more than they're telling us. And so the real question is, if the planet's going to die, and the issue is polarized, we have the oil companies paying for the studies saying global warming isn't real, and then you have the Democrats against the Republicans and vice versa on the issue of global warming. You even have White House head of environmental the Office of the Environment, lying and falsifying data, and James Hansen, the NASA climate scientist, testifying that the White House was altering his data. And the guy in the White House was doing it, I forget his name now, but he leaves the White House and he goes back to work for ExxonMobil. You have this war going on, and as long as Americans see that the issue is polarized, they become fence-sitters, which is the worst thing they can become. It means that, well, it's not that serious because 50% say it isn't real and 50% say it is. And just that polarization makes people go to sleep. And then you see in the beginning of From Here to Andromeda, David Phillips, Professor David Phillips at Santa Monica College, who teaches psychology of all things and environmental sciences, telling us we may only have a decade left to change our ways drastically. Otherwise, this mass extinction is going to begin, and very shortly, and that mass extinction will take place over about 70 years. So,
okay,
if that's the case...
Hold that thought, because we have a caller. We have my good friend, and probably your good friend, Jerry Pippin, from jerrypippin.com on the line. Hey, Jerry.
Hey, how are you, Rita?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Okay. I just couldn't resist calling and saying hello to David.
Hi, Jerry. How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. The last time I talked to you, you were on your way to Santa Fe.
That's right. Yeah, I'm actually in Sedona now.
Okay, you're back in Sedona. I just wanted to congratulate you on that 4-hour DVD, From Here to Andromeda. It really covers almost all the bases. You put a lot of work into that.
Yeah, a lot of work.
How long did it take to put that together?
It took about a year from conception, and we filmed and edited for about 8 months. And the original is actually in high definition.
Well, actually, that's pretty quick.
Well, great.
Well, it is as far as documentaries go. I think DiCaprio's 11th Hour took over a year just to edit after they shot everything.
What are you working on now, David?
I'm working on a new film called The Voice, which is interesting because Al Gore just said on CNN, and DiCaprio touches on this in the 11th Hour, that until people have the consciousness to really realize that we're all one and we're living in this interconnected quantum field, they're not going to really feel responsible, and nor are they going to even feel like there's anything wrong. And they're not going to be motivated to want to heal the planet and each other. And so in that respect, there needs to be a deeper spiritual revolution. And so my new film, The Voice, is going to be about science, quantum physics, and spiritual experiences, and going very deep into the subject of the saints and enlightenment and near-death experiences. So I'm really applying my knowledge in quantum physics to that area, healing, all of it. And it's going to be a film that I think is going to give people one of the best pictures of what full enlightenment of the saints really is like.
I heard you talking about global warming and things just before they put me on, and with Al Gore winning the Nobel Peace Prize today, and I really think that this From Here to Andromeda, a lot of it is about saving the climate and the planet. And so I just wanted to commend you.
Thank you. It's really about either we save the planet or we have to find our way to get to another galaxy or another star system if we want to survive. And it's for those humans who are not interested in continuing the human experience for whatever reason, their own personal choice. They don't seem to be motivated to making the personal efforts needed to clean up our environment and live sustainably. But for those of us who love this, myself included, the music, the food, the cultures, the different races, all of it, and just living on this beautiful planet, I see that the emergency is so serious, even as Al Gore has stated today on CNN, that this is an emergency, that we literally have to look at the most advanced technologies to go to other star systems if we want to survive. And like I said, I probe deep into our defense contractors, our spiritual explorers, people like Robert Thurman. We interviewed about the Tibetan Buddhist perspective in the film, about how, imagine an exodus of 6.5 billion souls who have been living on this planet right now, whether you believe in reincarnation or not. Where are those souls going to go next? If we destroy this planet, where are they going to find a new home? And those questions get even more interesting because there are deep problems on both ends, whether you believe in the fundamental Christian view or you believe in the reincarnation view, there are problems on both ends about where we'll go next. And that's another question that disturbs me more than anything. It disturbs me more than finding out how to build a flying saucer to go to another planet or make communication with a civilization that's far more advanced than us that might help us. There's a lot of questions.
Yeah,
anyway,
you're right.
Thanks, Jerry, for calling in.
Well, it's a pleasure talking to you, Rita, and I enjoy your show. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Jerry.
Nice to talk to you, David.
You too.
All right, bye. That was Jerry Pippin from jerrypippin.com.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry and I are really good friends, and he has co-hosted this show with me a few times, and so the jerrypippin.com thing's kind of a joke between us and probably everyone that has listened to he and I together. But before the call, we were talking about extinction of the planet and the effect of global warming. But I look at a lot of different things, and I do feel that, the environment and the climate and the level of pollution on the planet is one piece of what's going to cause extinction. But there's also, the degraded food sources. There are food manufacturers that go around and say, and my big one is like Hot Pockets is a complete meal. And so, even though addressing the environment, I feel, is one piece, I feel like if you look at the big picture, we are on a self-destruct course of not being able to reproduce, not being able to support the body physiologically and immunologically. God, I can't talk today. Which also is adding into this, how are we going to survive if we can't create good food and nourish the body?
And the bees dying.
And the bees dying, right.
And you hear viewer comments on a lot of these major news networks. One woman said on Matt Drudge, I was reading on his site, every day a boy gets stung by a bee. Good riddance anyway. Who needs the bees? And it just amazes me where people paying attention now in elementary school science, where you learn about pollination and foods. And with that kind of mentality out there, there just doesn't seem like there's a lot of hope. And that's why I go so extreme as to think that we might have to go off-world, because it's just so frustrating. Will people even use energy-saving light bulbs? Some people do. I do. I have them in all the sockets in the house that I can. But it doesn't seem like there's enough people out there who are really motivated. Even Al Gore, when I spoke in Congress in 1993 in April in a debate we were in the House side of Congress, in a committee on energy and development, and half the panel was missing that day. We had Nobel Prize-winning physicists saying that we should be putting money into further developing helium-3 fusion, which is a completely environmentally benign form of nuclear energy, developed by MIT physicists. We had signatures from over 10 Nobel Prize winners. Half the panel was missing, and Gore didn't even show up to the hearings that day, and he was supposed to be there. He was invited by his friend Harry Hamlin from LA Law. And basically, under Clinton and Gore, we were turned down for a measly $10 million to go the next level in developing this type of energy that is far, far beyond even hydrogen fuel cell technology. 9 grams of helium-3 can produce the energy equivalent of 1,000 barrels of crude oil, and there's no radioactivity. It's so low, it's practically lower than your television set, the amount of radiation it's producing.
Well, but it doesn't really surprise me. A few years ago, I was driving from Tennessee back to Texas, and I was listening to, a quote-unquote mainstream radio station, to one of our favorite right-wing voices on the radio, and he had this scientist, and I was kind of shocked because he was from Washington State, which is like such a green, eco-friendly community, talking about global warming, and global warming is a lot of hooey, and okay, so it's 5 degrees warmer in Minnesota and it doesn't snow so much, so what's bad about that? I was shocked.
Yeah, I'm just shocked at statements like that. It just shows you how uneducated America is becoming. And you're talking about the country where the automobile was practically invented, the light bulb, Thomas Edison, the motion picture, Nikola Tesla came here and invented alternating current. remote control, solar power. The Tesla coil gave us all of our wireless communications. The personal computer, I mean, you can just go down the list and all the greatest inventions in history, and they happened here first. They're not all American-born scientists, but they came here to realize their inventions. And you think, Americans must be the smartest people on the planet. I mean, technologically, the most advanced, certainly. And then you hear things like that. Oh, it's only 5 degrees warmer. Well, just think of your human body. 98.6 degrees. Now, what happens when it goes to 100? You're sick. And if you can't get rid of your fever within a month, you're going to die. So why does the planet have to take more abuse than the human body? Now, raise the human body's temperature by 5 degrees. What's going to happen?
Exactly. So
we're just not sensitive anymore. We don't think, the planet, it can handle anything. We can beat it up. We've got a third of the coral reefs are dead. We've got many species that are going extinct, including penguins and polar bears and tigers. We've got, massive pollution in our oceans. We've got the trash problems. We've got ozone depletion, which nobody even talks about anymore. And it's all coming to this omega point,
But I mean, that's because we're in a very consumer take society. And, I love the title about, the inconvenient. I mean, there's the truth part, but the inconvenient, because for us to do something, we'll be inconvenienced.
And I think that's why people don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to give Gore, the nation is divided right now, according to CNN, about him winning the Nobel Prize, because it means if they all agree, the majority agrees, then we have to be response-able. And we don't want to change. We don't even want to screw in an energy-saving light bulb, for God's sakes. We don't want to do anything. We just want this technology thing to keep going on the way it is. But we forget that the greatest inventions in the history of the world happened here first, and no one else believed it was possible. I mean, when Tesla said he could control devices remotely, all of the scientists of his day said he was crazy, and he did it. In fact, he's even the true father of radio, which we're talking on right now. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled on June 21st, 1943, that Tesla, Sir Oliver Lodge, and Stone were the true fathers of radio, and Marconi, a lab assistant who worked for Tesla, stole it and broadcast across the Atlantic. Now, all these things we're capable of, and now we know in our defense labs, and from here to Andromeda, we have technology sitting there that would blow everybody's minds, and Al Gore doesn't know about it. People don't know about it. When I went on Al Gore's website to do a little blogging about From Here to Andromeda and about Boyd Bushman at Lockheed, the moderators wrote me and said, you can't talk about that on our website. Well, how come you have your head buried in the sand when you know you live in the most technologically advanced country in the world? What do you think is sitting in those defense labs? What do you think is sitting in there?
Well, I think that they're scared. And, I mean, that was one of the pieces, part of the storyline was Crystal, your girlfriend, wife?
Yeah, my wife.
Person, your wife. All the fear that came up about going public and putting out this information for fear of reproach from the powers that be.
And she really is. I mean, imagine when you look at, at that time she was my fiance, now we're married. Imagine what it's like for someone who exposes themselves like I do, and you see all these mysterious deaths in the UFO community. I mean, you can really go down the list and just keep seeing how many outspoken individuals, all of a sudden die of a car accident and get run over like John Mack does. And, Eugene Malov, the head of Infinite Energy magazine, was beaten to death with baseball bats in his home within a year of John Mack's death. So, of course, she's terrified. And that's something that she eventually had to come to terms with, that we needed some kind of protection, at least that we could stand a chance.
Well, we need to take a quick break. I'm Dr. Rita Louise. We're here talking to David Sereda about his new film, From Here to Andromeda, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.
The International Association of Medical Intuitives is an organization dedicated to connecting you with professional medical intuitives from around the world. So if you're feeling ill and under the weather or are looking to join a professional organization such as this, visit www.medicalintuitives.net. That's www.medical-intuitives.net.
Move past the crossroads in your life and discover alternative solutions to your deepest concerns at soulhealer.com. So whether it's a physical problem, an emotional issue, a question about work, or troubles in your relationships, naturopath and medical intuitive Dr. Rita Louise can help you. Bring peace, harmony, and health back into your life. Schedule a session today. Visit soulhealer.com right away and live the life you've been dreaming of.
Are you involved in a new relationship that seems too good to be true? You know, there is an easy way to find out who you're dealing with. For over a decade, America Find has provided its customers with information to make faster, safer, and smarter relationship decisions. Their background check service is a quick and inexpensive way to feel more secure about all your personal and professional relationships. America Find will empower you with all the resources you need to check an individual's background and credibility. So before you say, I do, or hire a new babysitter or nanny, call America Find. Know what you're getting into before you invest your heart, your money, or your time. Call us toll-free at 888-256-2155, and in less than 30 minutes, we'll give you peace of mind. Let America Find tell you the truth.
You can get a copy of Dr. Rita's latest book, Avoiding the Cosmic 2x4, by visiting www.soulhealer.com. Get your copy today. Hi, I'm Dr. Rita Louise, the host of Just Energy Radio and the founder of the Institute of Applied Energetics. Start a new career today on the leading edge of alternative health and healing. The Institute of Applied Energetics can help you develop the specialized skills you need to work as an energy medicine practitioner, intuitive counselor, or professional medical intuitive. Besides our outstanding technical instruction, our programs also support you in creating and building a successful business in this rapidly growing field. Be a catalyst for changing the way healthcare is done around the world. Contact the Institute of Applied Energetics right away or visit appliedenergeticsinstitute.com.
And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hi, and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. We're having an interesting conversation with David Sereda. Sereda, the, I guess you're not the author, the producer, director, and star of From Here to Andromeda. So, David, there has been a lot of talk recently about the 2012, I have to get that right, the 2012 prophecies and about ascensions or the rapture. I mean, there's a lot of people that are putting different images on this shift that it seems like everybody on some level or another are all in agreement that there's a shift that's going to happen around the 2012 time. You know, and so whether we blow ourselves up, you know, global warming's here to stay, you know, whatever. But do you think that there's an association between the material that you're presenting and the 2012 prophecies?
Well, I think the fact that we prophecy, and it's always in the future, some kind of a savior or an event where there's going to be a shift means that we want that to happen, you know, especially in this community. But it doesn't, you know, well, a lot of these dates arrive with nothing, you know, nothing in the oven. Nothing comes out of the oven, and it's just, there's a lot of hope. And I think that's a good thing, the fact that we have, at least it keeps pushing us in the future. We thought in the year 2000 there was going to be a big shift. We thought when the big planetary alignment happened, there was going to be a big shift. And I think things are shifting slowly. I mean, just the fact that Gore won the Nobel Prize today, I mean, it was to me, it was a great day in history today. But nevertheless, the real truth is whether a Savior event is going to occur by that date. I mean, I would always want that to happen. I've had my own experiences, like you mentioned in the beginning, of meeting Jesus Christ in person, and 3 times in a blaze of light, far beyond the brightness of our sun, and with ecstasy and love and wisdom and peace and grace and beauty far beyond even the brightness itself. And there was times in his presence that I thought, firstly, I'm in the presence of God, but second, that something was going to happen. And I've even met, people like Giorgio Bon Giovanni I interviewed, who was a man who has stigmata from Italy, and he told me personally that the second coming would occur before 2012, and Jesus would arrive with saints of all religions, and there'd be giant, ships of light, coming with him. But prior to that, there would be a lot of very, very radical stuff happening. It only makes sense in the universe that there has to be a higher authority. There has to be somebody above us who knows what's going on and wouldn't just leave us here to destroy ourselves. It's kind of like, the parents go away on vacation for a couple of days and leave the kids at home. They make a mess of the house, and the parents come back, and it's like, teach the kids how to clean the house up. And it's like, it feels to me like divine intervention has been away too long. I mean, there hasn't been a massive event of an awakened, super awakened intelligent being on the planet since Christ, in my opinion. There are a lot of great teachers on the planet right now. There's probably more good teachers on the planet now than there's ever been, but there isn't anybody at the level of like Krishna or Buddha or Christ or, some of the great female saints in history as well right now, someone that powerful.
But there's a lot of people that have the feeling, that the shifts are going to be more internal, and even kind of my feeling is that, like in the last hour we were talking about choices and illusions was the book that we were discussing. And, I just get the feeling that, people's awareness, movies like, An Inconvenient Truth raises people's awareness so that they can make better choices in the face of stuff you get to see on TV.
Yeah.
And make better choices. And so I don't know if there's going to be like somebody coming down saying this is what you need to do, because personally I don't know that we would listen to them. But if we all can take responsibility for our choices, and if we all make better choices and disclose some information, I think that would be a good thing too.
It's almost better if more of us have a moderate awakening than if one super awakened person, takes birth again. Because if more of us are moderately awakened, we have a greater chance. If one super awakened person arrives, we might just crucify them again. There are many cases of great sages who have been, tortured or murdered just because of what they represented. Look what we did to Kennedy and Martin Luther King. These are people who were like saints in the field of politics. They're not saints, but they're like saints relative to their field. And look what we do to them. So I can't imagine if somebody as awakened as a Buddha or even a Kuan Yin or Jesus Christ or the Virgin Mary or Mary Magdalene, anybody at those levels of super intelligentsia. What I saw when I met Jesus Christ blew my mind, because I was doing Buddhist meditation my whole life. I've been sitting doing intensive Vipassana practice, Buddhist practice. I was baptized Catholic as a baby. And on the darkest day of my life, when my environmental company went bankrupt, I had a company called Green and Blue Corporation in the 1990s. We were trying to raise money with the richest people on the planet. I have sat down with some of the richest people on this planet, trying to get them to put money into technologies that would have made a positive change. And one of those was helium-3 fusion. Others were hydrogen fuel cell technologies, oil spill cleanup. And we couldn't fulfill a single contract. Nobody wanted to do anything. Everybody wanted to pass. In fact, I sat down with George Stranahan, who then sold Champion spark plugs, had $500 million cash. We were sitting down in Aspen in a little cafe, and I wanted $10 million to further the development of helium-3 fusion. And he said, "Oh, the government should be funding it. I don't want to put my money into stuff like that." And you have $500 million liquid cash, and you still don't want to take responsibility. And that was the attitude. And when my company went bankrupt, I was forced to pitch my tent on my dad's ranch, his 3-acre ranch with horses. Him and his wife had horses. And during severe rainstorms like monsoons in October of 94 in Topanga, California, I got flooded. And rather than going in the house and getting warm, my tent was pitched in a gully. I was lying in just a river of water. I got hypothermic, and I left my body, and Christ appeared to me. And I was so surprised because, firstly, I was surprised at the intensity of his enlightenment. I mean, in my opinion, the man is God. I mean, he's blown away every saint I've ever met personally, but I'm not going to go on a rampage or even judge other religions. I still believe there are many religions on the planet that lead to God. I'm not an extremist Christian. But for me to see him was like, what are you doing here? I thought it would be Buddha who would be here because I was practicing his meditation all my life. And who came on the darkest hour? Who came and rescued me and brought me back to life and filled me with more love and more joy and more peace and beauty and wisdom and graces. I mean, blinding. I fell on my face. I couldn't look at him. He was just so supremely enlightened and holy. I lasted only a second or two at each glance in the first meeting I had with him. And he started teaching me about singularity, about how ultimately there would be this realization that we could merge eventually quantum physics and the highest spiritual teachings that Jesus and Buddha and Krishna and all of them ever taught into one understanding that would lead to a healing for a lot of people. And I worked on that for several years, and I finally wrote the book Singularity, and I released it about a year or so ago. I just released it.
Great. Well, we have Carmen on the air.
Hello.
Hi, Carmen. How are you?
Hi, I'm okay. I wanted to ask a question.
Sure.
Tomorrow, if anybody realizes it, is the anniversary of the apparition of Our Lady of Fatima.
Oh, yeah, that's my brother's birthday also. Yeah, I know about that.
Right, so I wondered how you felt about Our Lady appearing and that kind of thing.
Well, I follow all the apparitions of Mary all over the world, from Zaytun in the 1960s to Asyut, Egypt in the year 2000. In Asyut, Egypt in the year 2000, there were over 2 million people, according to the BBC, that flooded this small town, and the Virgin Mary was appearing in a blaze of light for all eyes to see, and it only made ABC News' website. It never got on any TV station.
No, I didn't hear about that myself.
What's that?
I didn't hear about that one myself. But
yeah, they don't put it on the news here. And her body was glowing with light, and everybody saw her. Everybody. It was reported on BBC News, glowing with light, and people even videotaped it. And what happens is our media doesn't cover this stuff. Why wouldn't they cover? Who has ever seen a glowing master from over 2,000 years ago appearing in our skies? And we know from the apparitions at Fatima in 1914 on October 13th to the three visionaries that this was really authenticated by the church, that this really was really happening. It wasn't, just their imagination, because what happened on October 13th was the miracle of the sun when it was strobing and producing rainbows. They verified that this stuff was really real. So we do know that there really is somebody up there who's looking down on us, and we're not alone down here. But it's just really sad that the major news networks don't cover stories like that. And then you just got to wonder why. Why wouldn't they cover these kind of stories? And if you go
there is an organization called America Needs Fatima, and they're supposed to be trying to organize rosary presentations all over the world for churches and people getting together in different places and different sites saying the rosary on this day, the 13th.
I pray the rosary almost every day when I meditate now. I do a kind of sitting meditation in silence for an hour, and I do my Hail Marys, and I really feel the most beautiful blessings and healing when I do them. And
I'd like to hear Rita's version of all this. What does Rita have to say?
Not much. I don't really keep track of that whole thing. But I think, from a planetary dynamics point of view, I think it's really good to have people in unison all praying and all putting that dynamic and that energy together, because prayer is healing. Prayer is going to help the planet, regardless of your belief. They have, different days where, they'll have a prayer hour or a meditation hour. There was a study done where they had people pray in this one city every day for a certain amount of time, and they were able to document that the amount of crime in that city reduced during the time the experiment was going on. And so that is the power of prayer.
Is that the intention experiment?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that, to me, the belief part is not as important as the actual experience of healing and prayer. It's what people really feel, what really transpires in the soul that's more important than our battling differences in belief.
Oh, I agree. We have too many differences, and we should concentrate on what we believe together.
Yeah, I believe that firmly.
Thank you very much for calling, Carmen.
You're very welcome.
And you have a wonderful evening, okay?
Thank you. You too. You too, Doctor.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Anyway, she calls pretty regular. She always throws me off, sorry. All right, I'll tell you a secret. That's my mom.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. And she always likes when I have people that talk about Jesus and stuff, and so she always calls in. So anyway, so one of the things that you talked about, was your exploration of propulsion. I know we're going to be hitting a break here pretty soon. And how, as a young child, you started getting, plans and blueprints about how to create, an anti-gravity propulsion system. How did that whole thing start?
Well, after seeing a UFO on my way home from elementary school in Berkeley in 1968, I was 7 years old at the time, and my father was studying to get his PhD in psychology at the University of Berkeley. And I noticed about 100 people in the neighborhood pointing up at a flying saucer, going crazy over this thing. And when you see something that close, you mentioned in the beginning that you're not really, really involved in the UFO thing. I didn't become involved until I saw this, and I really knew what I was looking at. I built model airplanes as a kid, and everyone was saying it's a spaceship, and it's silver metallic, it's disc-shaped. It's not the Goodyear blimp. It's not, somebody's little propeller balloon. This thing is hovering up there, shimmering with steel, and it's close enough that you can really see detail. And it looks exactly like, anybody who has seen the photographs of Billy Meyer's Palladian ships, it looks exactly like one of those.
Rats. We have to go to break, but I want to come back to your story because I think it's interesting. I'm Dr. Rita Louise. We're talking to David Sereda from HereToAndromeda.com, and we'll be back after these messages.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages. Hi, I'm James Athayanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. Listen to Dr. Rita's Soul Healer Moment live each third Sunday night of the month on Feet to the Fire. www.feet2fire.com for more information.
Are you in the middle of a messy divorce? Do you think your spouse is trying to hide money, possessions, or property from you? Call America Fine today. America Fine will give you an accurate picture of your spouse's assets. We can help you locate any hidden bank accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or safety deposit boxes that have been concealed from you in the courts. The reality is, the court can only divide what it knows exists. Be smart and take control of your future. Make sure everything is put on the table before you step into the courtroom. Just call us today, toll free at 888-256-2155, and in less than 24 hours, we'll give you peace of mind. Let America Fine help you get the fair judgment you deserve.
Finally, there's a healing and ascension tool that delivers real results faster than you ever dreamed possible. Guaranteed. Feel your body release those lingering physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual blockages. Sense a profound awakening to your next level of intuition and oneness with your higher self. Discover Archangel Metatron's Healing and Ascension CDs at AtlantisHealthCenters.com. Visit AtlantisHealthCenters.com today.
You want to host your own radio talk show? You provide the voice and the content. We do all the rest. www.innerstreamsradio.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rita Louise, the host of Just Energy Radio. There's no greater blessing in the world than your good health. Science is now showing that simply eating a high-quality diet doesn't provide us with all the nutrition we need. Doctors recommend we supplement our diets with products derived from whole food concentrates. And one of the most complete and nutritious whole foods found on the earth are little microscopic plants called marine phytoplankton, which can be found in a product called Frequency. I've been taking Frequency every day for about 6 months now, and I feel more energized and full of life. If you're ready to make a difference in your health, I encourage you to try Frequency and see what it can do for you. To learn more about Frequency and other amazing whole food natural products direct from Mother Nature, please visit productsforthesoul.com. Start the year off right by visiting livinggrocery.com. Experience the miracle of real nutrition as it helps you to lose weight and improve your overall health. Don't mess with pills or capsules. We provide the highest quality, all-natural organic foods that come ready to eat. And best of all, it's delivered straight to your door. Visit livinggrocery.com now and experience your own amazing transformation.
And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Dr. Rita Louise, and this is Just Energy Radio, and we are talking to David Sereda, the director, producer of From Here to Andromeda. And David, we're in the last segment, so we don't have a whole lot of time, but you were telling about how you got into this whole thing in the first place, and could you continue that story?
Well, what happened after seeing the UFO in Berkeley, I watched it for about 20 minutes with my friend walking home from school. And it just blinked out. It went invisible in a blink of an eye. And in the pursuing days and weeks, our family moved, and we moved into a new house in the Berkeley Hills. And I started having dreams about the propulsion system. And the dreams were about one set of color lights spinning clockwise and one anti-clockwise on the same axis. And eventually, the dream started to produce an imprint in my mind about physics that I would never understand until I got into my 30s and 40s. And then I started finding that other people, in fact, you see in From Here to Andromeda, we have a lot of people in this film. We have, John Hutchison, the anti-gravity scientist, David Phillips, the professor, Stephen Bassett, ufologist, Barbara Lamb on crop circles. And we find the same message that I was seeing in my dreams imprinted in the fields and crop circles. You have to see the movie to really understand this. And then we meet these other children who are getting the same vision that I saw in my dreams. And then we start getting deeper and deeper into the propulsion physics with Boyd Bushman at Lockheed, and we find that all of that makes perfect sense. And how it makes sense, you really have to see the film to see it. But it looks like also, on top of that, just exactly, the month or so preceding the Roswell incident, there were children all over this country who were building anti-gravity flying saucers that were flying around, confusing the FBI's investigation of the real UFOs that were being seen all over the country. So the question is, how did all these kids get these messages about the physics of anti-gravity and build successful flying saucers? You have to see the real FBI files that are posted on their website, on the FBI's website right now under FOIA. If you go to my site, FromHereToAndromeda.com, and you go to the links in news, you can see I have links to all these FBI files. And if you read them, there's over 1,600 pages in there. I'm trying to find out where I have the links. But anyway, to the FBI files, what you end up finding is that these FBI files reveal that kids were building flying saucers, and they mastered anti-gravity in their teens. So they obviously got bought up by a lot of our defense contractors and locked away, hiding the very technology we could use right now to save our planet. If these kids were building successful flying saucers in the 1940s, and the extraterrestrials were implanting the designs to how to build flying saucers in people like my brain and many, many more people, obviously they wanted us to get it. They wanted us to get the technology we would need to basically save ourselves before we destroyed ourselves, to obviate the problem we would eventually encounter. But it appears that there are very high levels of our government, and I suspect it's the corporations who are maintaining a monopoly on this planet with energy dominance, and those are the oil companies, and they are the ones that are not allowing this technology to get out. And that's where, and from here to Andromeda, I've gone far deeper than any other investigator on the subject of what we need to save this planet. And on top of it, I show people, what current technology we can use to live sustainably.
Yeah, and I definitely want to repeat that because, I made 3 pages worth of questions, which I've gotten through like 4 or 5, and that just like barely skimmed the surface of the material that is in the CD set. So one closing question: what can regular people like me, people like my sister or my cousin, what kind of things can we do to support the planet, to support change on the planet?
Well, if you can't afford a super alternative vehicle right now because they're so expensive, like the new electric cars, one energy-saving light bulb will save 100 pounds per year of CO2s, the greenhouse gases that are causing global warming. I have 15 in my house, so I'm going to save 1,500 pounds of CO2s this year. In energy equivalency, that means the energy coming from coal plants, where we get over 50% of our energy in America, that energy is not going to be used. So we're saving coal, we're saving 100 pounds of CO2s that are going to go into the atmosphere. So that's one thing. And recycling, walking and riding the bicycle for short errands really helps in the local community. Not always getting in the car, carpooling, things like that are things that we can do right now. And then also getting involved politically with the legislation to bring in much more renewable energy in our country. I mean, I think personally we could go all solar and all wind right now, mostly, and we could use we could be using more biodiesel. There's a lot of things we could be doing, but as individuals, if you don't have a lot of money, those are the things I would say to do. And, don't throw your trash in the middle of the river like people do in Sedona. You come into the middle of this beautiful river and people have their diapers and their beer cans, they're throwing them in the middle of the river.
You have got to be kidding me.
In Sedona.
That's like woo-woo metaphysical capital, of the world, kind of like Roswell is Alien.
What you get, you see it actually happening. What it is, a lot of the illegals who come in from Mexico do a lot of labor jobs. They get drunk on the weekend, and you see them. You see these women changing their babies right on the side of the river, and the diaper goes in the water with all the babies, crap in it. And then you see these guys, all these workers are throwing their beer cans in the water, just like it doesn't matter to them. And maybe in Mexico that's okay for them to throw their trash all over their city, but not in America. I mean, please don't come here and do that to our country. But there are also lots of, it's not just them. I mean, I have seen this with my eyes. In fact, I even asked a police officer who was a Latino American in Santa Fe, who is throwing all the trash on the side of the roads in Santa Fe? Who's doing it? And he said the Mexicans do it to create jobs so they can get hired to pick up the trash.
That's bad.
That's what a police officer told me.
Well, and I had a girlfriend, and her comment was, if you pick up one piece of paper off the ground, you're helping.
Yeah, anything you can do. But for now, energy-saving light bulbs, I think they should be mandatory in every home in America.
Great. David, thank you so much. I'm going to have to have you back on because we barely scratched the surface here.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll be in touch.
Okay. So next week, we have Sri Ram Ka and Kira Ra talking about the evolution of the soul. In 2 weeks, on the 26th, we have Echo Bodine, and on November 2nd, Dang and Brinkley, all in support of the Edge Life Expo. Listen to the show, call in, win free tickets. So till next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. Be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio. Point your browser to www.justenergyradio.com for more show information and to contact Dr. Rita. Until next time, remember, it's all just energy. 70 million Americans suffer from sleep deficit. I'm James Athayani.